this time. That's nice. And we're live.
All
Okay,
right.
welcome to another episode of Your List Sucks, non-Disney edition. I had some ideas where this could go, and then I was flipping wrong where it actually went. I was like, oh, we'll talk about some DreamWorks, we'll talk about stuff like that. They're like, no. Paul and Jake wanted to be on this episode, so that's where we're going today. This list definitely sucks a little bit from what I created and then what I got. But I got to actually see some movies that I've been wanting to see, and still I don't understand it really. But that's not the point of the show. The point of the show is me to rip everybody apart. First, the person that I might rip apart, I don't know. She's in my faction. I hope she doesn't leave my faction because she's one of the brightest spots in my faction. Maggie,
What up?
do you think your list sucks today? And
I mean, I
Yeah,
would
go
say that my list is very nostalgia heavy in terms of things. Some of these movies I've seen a lot. Some of them I haven't seen for a really long time, but I just remember liking them a lot as a child. So that's what we're going with.
Fair. And Nazario, you posted something. You normally have some hot takes when it comes to animation, especially your Disney animation. So we did non-Disney. Do you think your list is going to suck today?
Probably, in most people's eyes, that doesn't mean it's correct. Hey, I actually had a lot of trouble doing this list because the first draft I got like 50 movies. And then I just had to make like insane cuts. So I decided to make up my own rules to bring it down to 10. And I showed it to my wife, and she hated it. So I think we have that.
Me and your wife have something in common. Next to Jake, the elitist of the group, also in my faction. Do you think your list sucks, or can it suck because you pick things that I have probably never seen?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I was like your number one pick the last two times I was on your list up. So I think that's gonna go completely down from that. But no, I'm not a big Disney guy, and when it comes to animated movies, there's a lot that I really got to enjoy when making this list and rewatch, and some that I hadn't seen before. So I'm looking forward to this, and yeah, I think people won't be shocked.
Yeah, it's like getting 2 B pluses and then getting them freaking did not complete. It's going to drop your grade pretty bad today. Paul, normally my producer comes up with some ideas for the show. Definitely wanted to be on this episode. We moved it up for you, and your list still probably sucks. But do you think it sucks?
Definitely not. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm not going to deny this list will probably be pretty on brand. But there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that. But I also watched a lot of new stuff that I had now gotten to for this list, and for that, I am at least grateful.
There we go. Okay, so how the show works, again, if you watch it every week, because this community is very small, you probably know how this works. But it's 10, 9, 8. They're going to go through it. If you have something on your list and it's higher, which there's not a ton of overlap on this episode, I'll promise you that, but you'll say, yikes. And then we'll move on. Then we'll go through 7 through 4 one at a time. Then we'll trade 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 2, 2, 2, and then get to the final one. Everybody gets a combined list. I do not have a list. I can't put one out there, but I can tell you how bad yours is. But tonight we're going to start with Nazario. Give us your 10, 9, 8.
Okay. My number 10 is George Miller's Happy Feet. Okay, I assume nobody has that. My number 9 is 2011's best animated movie, Rango. And
yeah.
We'll
talk about that.
Okay. And my number 8 is Anomalisa.
Yikes.
Okay.
So is that 2 yikes from Jake? 9 and 8?
One. No, it's just one. It's just
just 8. Okay.
Yeah, because you two both have Rango on your list. Where is Rango? Right, or one of you?
For me? No,
yeah.
I have it at 8.
Yeah. Okay, so Nazario will talk about it. You'll talk about it at this point right here. Okay. So first, take us through Happy Feet.
Ooh. George Miller is a great director of family films and Mad Max movies. Those 2 things, nothing else. And with Happy Feet, he actually made an very, very fun and very serious musical about penguins. And like he does in most of his work, he doesn't really go as much for the easy stuff, for the kid stuff, he actually gives some meaning behind it. The ending part of this movie, where when the penguin finds himself in a zoo, it's very touching. It actually reaches to people that may, in a way that kids can understand the drama without really having to be explicit about it. And the music is pretty awesome. I like the way how the small penguin doesn't fit in the group because he's the only one who cannot sing, and yet he finds his voice through dance. It's a very sweet story, and visually it's very good. It's actually one of my favorite 2000 plus movies, so I love it.
For the love of everything, go to Rango.
Rango? Well, Rango is actually pretty freaking brilliant. It feels like an animated version of Hunter S. Thompson book, I mean. And it actually gives a lot of nods to Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Even the original owner of Rango, who is driving the car, looks like Johnny Depp in that movie. And it's a very weird movie for being animated, because I don't feel like it's a kids movie at all. I think it's basically a story about a guy finding his way in the world by becoming the sheriff of a small western town. It even has a cameo of the Spirit of the West that is basically animated to look like Clint Eastwood. And it's very adult. The jokes are very clever, and it's actually pretty funny. I love it.
Yikes.
I'm going to ignore that message on screen by the off-screen showrunner. I'll just say real quick, I had Rango at number 8. I think Rango is a movie I think that people might not have as much of an appreciation for if they're not as familiar with the Western genre, because it's really like a satire of 60s and 70s Westerns. So I think if you think this movie is like just okay, I think maybe consider seeing some like Once Upon a Time in the West and some Clint Eastwood Westerns, and then coming back to it, because I think there's some really specific callbacks that I think are really brilliant. That's kind of the big thing that I think is so good about this movie. It's such a brilliant kind of skewer of the Western genre. And that's what the whole story is. It's really Rango being forced to be this cowboy kind of outlaw figure. But I just think it's pretty amazing. It's one of my favorite American animated movies. And yeah, it's pretty great.
I won't agree with Caleb at all. I've seen Rango a couple times. Not a huge fan of it. I know a few of them when they brought it up in this community, they really like it. It's not been one for me. But I mean, the animation's good in it. I normally don't give people shit for the 10s because it's the bottom of the list, but my God, you put Happy Feet on your list. Fair enough, whatever. I think the movie's bad. I guess when I was a little younger, it was okay, but I revisited not too long ago since my life kind of changed and I got kids. Like, it's like rough. That movie, I do not find that movie good at all, especially with 10, and it's non-Disney, so you have a lot to choose from. And I know the sad part of sitting in this chair, I know what you left off your list and you put Happy Feet on your list, so that just pisses me off to begin with. But we're gonna move along now. We're gonna go to Paul. Your 8's already been taken.
I haven't talked about my 8.
Well, it's a yikes for Jake.
Yeah.
Okay,
all
so
right. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, so my number 10 is a Studio Ghibli movie called Whisper of the Heart. My number 9 is going to be a movie called Tower from 2016. And then my 8 is Rango, which we talked about. So I'll just real quickly go back to Whisper of the Heart. It's really hard to find this movie, so I understand like people having not seen it, but it's such a sweet and honest and simple story about a young girl who just has a passion for writing. And when she's checking out a book, she always sees the same name that has read the book before, and it's this boy, and they meet and become friends, and they sort of they both have passion for creating things in the arts, and they sort of foster that passion within each other. And it's such a sweet and endearing story. It's really great. If you have a chance to check it out, I'd highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites. And then number 9, Tower. This is a weird movie. It's a half documentary, half like rotoscoped animation, which is like Waking Life and a Scanner Darkly style, where they draw over like real footage. And animate that, but it's a story of the 1966 University of Texas shooting that happened, which is kind of one of the first mass shootings in the United States. And it's such a brilliant story it's layered with part real archival footage and part this animation style that's really unique. And I think it tells such like a human and beautiful story, and it's shows these people at sort of their rawest moment. And I just think it's a really inventive style of animated film, and it's unlike really any animated movie I've ever seen. And I watched it for this list, and I'm really glad that I got to check it out.
Yeah, I won't say much. Haven't seen them. I literally went through everybody's list and saw where I could find. I have a ton of streaming platforms, and let me tell you, couldn't find a lot. Apparently, you guys have some access to some stuff that I can't locate, and I refuse to pirate. So, yeah, that's just me. So we'll go to Maggie next. Maggie, give us your 10, 9, 8.
Oh boy, my list is so vanilla compared to everyone else's. All right, my number 10 is Balto, and then my number 9 is Howl's Moving Castle, and then my number 8 is the Peanuts movie. Yeah, so no one has those. Okay, so Balto I haven't seen in a really long time, but let me tell you, as a child, I watched that movie like once a week. It was like my go-to thing. Me and Robert would watch it all the time. I really like the story. Obviously, it's based on a true story about, pushing through all of these things that are telling you no, and ultimately, making a huge difference. So that's obviously a really great message. I really like dogs and sled dogs in particular, so it's always resonated with me for that reason, and that is why I have it on my list. Yeah. All right. And then my number 9, Howl's Moving Castle, I also haven't seen in a really long time, but it was the first Studio Ghibli movie that I saw, and it always is just stuck in my brain as like being like a different sort of animation style, the first time I ever saw that kind of animation style, and then just like the weirdness of the story, but the way that it really is powerful and moving at the same time, and that is why it is on my list. But as I said, I haven't seen it in a really long time, and I was unable to watch it before this, so that's why it's lower. And then number 8 for the Peanuts movie. This movie is just like really cute, and the Peanuts are great, and so I mean that's really the basis of it, like just the Peanuts being the Peanuts, and the animation style is great, and the music is great. It's just a great, like, I don't know if it's G or PG, but it's a great, just like little family film, like you could watch with anybody and still find enjoyment in. And it's above those other two, like I said, because I have seen it more recently, so I can like have concrete reasons why I actually like it.
Yeah, so how your list sucks sometimes works is I reach out to people. I say, hey, Maggie, you want to be on this episode? She's like, sure. So she sent me her list. I lost Nazario. She sent me her list. And then Paul and Jake said, can I be on your list? And I was like, I've got to find somebody else to pair off to even out these lists, because one person has really modern stuff and some person, they all went to film school. So I actually respect your list a little bit more. Balto, when I was a child, was the shit. Balto, I watched that probably once a week with you. It was a great choice. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I do not know if it holds up at all. But
Boris the Goose.
Yeah,
great
character.
In my 5-year-old brain, that movie is fantastic, and
Right?
no one will tell me any different. 9, Howl's Moving Castle was the first Studio Ghibli movie I saw. It was way later. It was after I joined this community. It got brought up. Really, they brought the category in, and I said, what is this? Like, I have no idea. I am so uncultured in that aspect. And I really enjoyed Howl's Moving Castle because a guy at work watches all of them, told me to which ones to check out. He said the most accessible one would probably be Howl's Moving Castle to start with, and he wasn't wrong. I really enjoyed that movie. Peanuts movie, I have a little bit of a problem with.
I know.
That movie, as much as I know Maggie, that movie fits Maggie to a T. But for me, I do not like that movie at all. I remember watching it because I worked in the theater at the time, and about 35 minutes, I stood up and walked right out. It just wasn't for me. I have no heart, and you're 100% correct. It was just not for me, and I wasn't in the best mood for the Peanuts movie. I promise you that. So that's the one. I maybe put that at 10 and then move things up. I would actually like Balto to be a little higher. But on that note, we will move over to the film school genius of Jake Maringoni. So tell us.
He's wearing an Eraserhead shirt too, so it makes it even worse.
Yes. So tell us where these small animation movies were made and how amazing they are.
Well, I didn't really start small, but let's go. So number 10 is The Road to El Dorado.
Very nice. Very nice. I forgot this was on your list.
I thought that was going to be a yikes. This one will be. I have 5 centimeters per second at number 9.
That is not a yikes. It's not
Ooh.
yikes.
Wow, damn. And then number 8 is Akira or Akira.
That's a yikes. That's a yikes.
Yeah, okay.
That's a yikes.
Cool. All right, so Red Dorado. This is I think this is I don't want to spoil it. DreamWorks animation, early 2000s. Perfect time for me little Jake to grow up with. This is just like a really fun animated film. That's just nothing really deep, but just really entertaining. I really love. Really underrated because don't hear a lot of people really talking about Dorado. I know a couple of us in this community are big fans of it. Miguel and Tulio, really entertaining. Love the setup. It's almost like a massive con going on. I don't want to go much into story because I assume that most people know about it. But yeah, I love the music. Elton John. I think it's
Dorado.
Dorado. Yeah. Hot take. I think it's in the Lion King soundtrack. Hot take there. I'd say I have some pretty big animated hot takes, but no, I think Red Dorado is a really fun movie. Rosie Perez and Kenneth Branagh and Kevin Kline, I think, just really have a. I knew that was going to come up. It was a really good time. I enjoy Red Dorado. Number 9 is Makoto Shinkai's 5 centimeters per second. It's a really simple, just love story between two people who kind of drift apart, and it's split into 3 segments, 3 shorts, and kind of views through the years what happens through their lives. And yeah, without getting too much in this spoiler, since I don't think most people have seen this film, it's very emotional, powerful, heartbreaking, and you just really feel for these characters. And all 3 segments are amazing. And it's
on YouTube in HD for anyone who wants to see it.
If you already, it's also a quick watch because it's only like an hour, a little over an hour long. It's an easy film to watch. So yeah, I don't really want to go too much into spoilers, but it's very simple. But yeah, it does really well. And number 8 was the yikes. So yeah, that's.
I was going to compliment you, say Red Dorado, what a good choice. Then you said something stupid, ridiculous, and completely untrue. But that's fine. We'll move along from there. I'm surprised you watched that when you were a child. I figured you were watching stuff from the 30s and 40s and getting yourself all ready up. And I haven't seen 5 centimeters. It was on my list today. I just didn't have time to get to it. So that will be one I check out. But again, you guys picked some real interesting ones.
It's 2 inches for the Americans.
No, same title. But anyway.
Okay, but Nazario, you spoke up, so now we can go to you. You're going to start with your 7. You're going to move up if anybody has it up higher. Yikes! Again, you get more time, but not like an insane. So don't go crazy. But yeah,
it's 7 to 5, right?
7 to 4.
You have
7 to 4.
The show. You are 2 other people have hosted the show, Caleb and you don't even know the order. It's 7 through 4. Start with 7.
So number 7, I think it's the most recent one, is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, that's a yikes.
Oh fuck. Oh my god.
I told you my list was vanilla. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just saying I messed up. Go ahead.
My number 6 is Coraline. I'll talk about Coraline. I love this film. This is like the movie that Tim Burton tried to make several times and wasn't able to make it. It's a pretty dark, kind of gothic story based on a Neil Gaiman book that is brought to life by Leica Animation, stop animation, which is an art that I think is having kind of a revival, and I appreciate it. Like I said, I made my own crazy rules for this, so I decided I was going to only put 1 Leica film because I didn't want to make half this list Leica films. So this is the one I picked because it's the first one I got to because it was the first one released, and it's still my favorite. It's a story about a girl who moves into a new house, who finds that the house has a small little portal into a mirror dimension where everything is the same except it's not. And everybody who ignores her or doesn't pay attention to her like her parents in the other side makes her the center of her universe, except they have buttons sewn into their eyes. And I'm not going to spoil the movie because it's actually a little fun adventure film. Things start to get a little dark, and she starts to find out that not everything is as good as it seems, and everything kind of has a price. Then she has to even embark on a little quest to actually kind of save herself, which is just pretty interesting. And I still love these movies very, very much.
You shush. We talk in between. Calm yourself. You know how the show works, man. This is tied. Koho has talked about La La Land, and I've been on more calls with you, and you have brought up this movie than. Well, there's one other one, but we won't talk about that right now. But this movie, I'll tell you. Well, that's not true at all. That's completely not true. But this movie, I've never gravitated towards. I don't like it. After you even talked about it even more, I went back and watched it. Still not a fan, but I'm not shocked that it's on your list at all because this is like on brand if I've ever seen it. Anybody else? You guys did not pick this one. Have you seen it? Do you not like it? Stuff like that. So let me know.
I'll go first. I love Coraline, actually. It's really the one Leica movie I like a lot. I kind of think Leica's a little overrated secretly. Like, I like the ideas of what they do, but I don't know. The stories that they tell just don't really connect for me. But I think this is a lovely, and it's pretty scary for a kid's movie, too. And I kind of admire the boldness to make it scary like that. And I like that kind of blend. It just barely missed out on my list, but this was pretty close, and this is a pretty great movie.
Yeah, so I've seen Coraline a few times. The first time I was very, very scared. Not gonna lie, as a small child. So it took me a while to rewatch it, and then I did, and I was like, yeah, okay, I guess, like it's fine. I also limited myself to one Leica movie, even though I have another studio on here twice, but that's not a big deal. And I picked a different one, which we will see soon. But yeah, I think Leica's great, actually. Box Trolls is a treasure. And even the one that came out this past year.
Zach Ford, where are you at? Jesus. Sorry, go ahead.
Box Trolls is wonderful. And the one with Hugh
Missing
Jackman
Link.
came
Missing
out.
Link.
Yeah, that was pretty cute. They're all like really cute, and I will just always support that style because I think that it should.
Must be a Madison, Wisconsin thing. Go ahead.
Can I speak? Can I speak, manager?
You said that stupid thing. You're lucky you're still on the show.
That's true. I was trying to think about if I wanted to like a film on my list, and Coraline was the obvious number one I'd go with. But I like it. It's been a while since I've seen it, and I just like it really needs to. My biggest problem with them is storytelling, and I think this is their best one. But I like it a lot. But I had more picks.
I'm glad I waited till you talked for that short bit. Okay, thanks, Jake. Nazario, what's your 5?
My 5 is Fantastic Mr. Fox by Wes Anderson. Yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox is also a movie that's adapted from a children's book. But this is basically a Wes Anderson movie. He took the basic concept of the story and just made a movie that he actually wanted to make. Also made in stop animation, with, like I said, it's a pretty amazing way to animate films. It takes a lot of work, but it gives it a tactile feel that I actually really love. This movie, it's Wes Anderson trying to make a children's movie and not making a children's movie, making a movie for people that appreciate his way of making films and will enjoy it that way. I love the voice acting in this because it's everybody's. It's his cast. It has Owen Wilson. It has Bill Murray, George Clooney, and Meryl Streep, pretty sweet, and Jason Schwartzman is hilarious the whole movie. And even the 3 farmers are so fucking dark when you see them. They are like taking in one does cider and the other like kills like geese just to make pate. It's just pretty cool, and the story itself. It follows the beats of the children's book, but it kind of has a little darker tones to it. And like I said, if you like Wes Anderson's films, this is basically what that is, just covered in animation makeup, I guess. I love it.
Yeah, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Not a fan of him. Do not like his movies. Not a fan. I've said it numerous times. I like one of his movies, and that's it. And this is not one of them. I do not. There's one that was close to me actually liking. I think Isle of Dogs. I like.
Hey, I almost put that one, but I chose.
I
this
didn't.
We're not
I
doing
didn't-
this Isle of Dogs right now. We're not doing
You
this.
shut your mouth.
If it's
This
not on
is
anyone's
your
list,
show. I didn't hate it, but not a fan of him at all. So yeah, nope, not a chance. That made your list worse right now. Anybody else on Fantastic Mr. Fox? This is Paul's thing to say. Oh, it was. This is the one I would have picked, but I didn't put it. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, it was literally on my list until like 2 hours ago. So yeah, I just changed it out really last second. Noah Baumbach is one of my favorite directors, and he co-wrote this, and his style is all over this, like the style of dialogue and stuff. This is my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It was super close. This is like I really love this movie a lot. I think it's really funny, and the dry humor really gets me. And yeah, I love the way it's animated, but it just barely missed out. I mean, there's a lot of great animated movies out there.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do?
So many.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Fantastic Mr. Fox. It's just been a really long time, so there's no way. And my like lasting impression of it is not. It's pretty neutral. It's not like super positive or anything. So
Yeah, I wasn't.
Movie is better.
I wasn't a big fan of when I first saw this. I think I saw it on a plane back in 2009, and eventually, when I figured out who Wes Anderson was and watched his other films, I had a newfound appreciation for this film when I rewatched it. And yeah, I love Wes Anderson. I think this is one of the best stop-motion animated films ever, honestly. It's just so beautifully orchestrated, and it's a great film, and Wes Anderson knew what he was doing when he was making animated films. And I think he's adopted the style of stop-motion into his later films, Grand Budapest and Moonrise and all that. So yeah, I think this one's great.
Malcolm, by the way, in the chat, I would like to see what you consider great. Just off the top. And even when somebody says this is a good movie, and not that great.
Malcolm's number one, Home, starring Rihanna, is number one non-Disney animated movie.
Probably.
Big
Let's go to your next one, Nazario.
Number 4 is actually a movie that started way higher on my list, and then it actually kind of started dropping when I started remembering other things that I wanted to put in. So my number 4 is the Lego Movie.
That's a
Yeah.
Okay.
Shut up, Paul.
Hey, the host may or may not agree, so we'll see later.
Well, actually, wait. You have it as your 4, but it's a yikes for Paul anyway. Okay, so never mind.
Yeah, for Jake, not for
For
me.
Jake, my bad.
It is a yikes for me, but that's a different type of yikes.
Okay. We're gonna go to Paul.
All right, my number 7 on brand alert again. Here we are, another Studio Ghibli movie. The movie is The Wind Rises.
Anybody shocked? No? Keep going. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so this, I think, in a lot of ways, is kind of the culmination of Miyazaki's career. It's such a movie that's about someone's intense passion for something. And I think the way that it's executed is so beautiful. This man and his sort of conflicting obsession with planes, and the planes that he makes being used for purposes other than the ones that he would like to. I think that conflict is so strong. The animation is gorgeous, and I don't know, just it breaks my heart every time. I just love seeing how much love that Miyazaki has for people's passions, and I think that it really shines through in this movie. It's, I think, one of the best animated movies of the last 10, 15 years, and I just think it's absolutely beautiful. I'm excited for him to make another movie, but if this was his last, then that would be pretty great. I don't know. Wind Rises is pretty amazing, and voice cast is great. Like, animation is great as it always kind of is with that hand-drawn Studio Ghibli style. Yeah, fantastic movie.
I have not been able to see this one yet. So a popular choice, but I'm glad you brought it up. So I can't say that it's a bad choice. Jake, Nazario, Maggie, anything on The Wind Rises?
I haven't seen it.
I
I
actually
wish I had something because I haven't seen it.
I watched this movie at least 5 times. I own the Blu-ray. It's a beautiful film. And the animation, like everything else that Miyazaki does specifically, I would say even Miyazaki more than Ghibli, it's gorgeous. That guy has a magic touch with directing this style of animation. And the only reason I didn't have The Wind Rises on my list is because, again, I decided to put in one Ghibli movie because I didn't want to make the list half Ghibli movies. And I knew, by the way, that Paul had this, so I wasn't going to use my one spot on this one. But yeah, it's one of the best. I think it was like in my honorary list of the post-2010s animated films. And if it had been his last film, it would have been a beautiful way to go. This is kind of animated version, not the same way, but kind of the same love for things that Leonardo DiCaprio shows in The Aviator about creating things and then seeing how his creations are turned into something else. It's a beautiful film, and everybody should watch it.
Okay. Your 6?
So my number 6 is a movie I actually just rewatched today. It's called The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. This is a movie I saw for the first time in theaters about a year ago at a film festival in LA. And it's an anime film about a girl who discovers who has this weird happenstance happen to her, and she has the gets the ability to time travel. She can go back in time a few days. And it's a coming of age story, which makes sense that, again, it connects to me so hard. But it's really about her realizing that her life does not have to be necessarily perfected in all these little ways. She goes back to change really small details. Like I think anyone would have the notion to, but it's really just a beautiful story about her realizing what her friendships and her relationships in her life mean to her, and how those should be, come natural, and how she should take them as they are, not how necessarily she wants them to be. But it's just a beautifully moving movie. Like it makes me cry at the end every time. It's fantastic. Seeing it in a theater, I think, definitely amplified my love for it, and it's phenomenal. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I'm not surprised if no one's seen it. So it is what it is.
I will save the words. Nazario, Jake, Maggie, anything on this movie?
Nope.
No, I haven't seen this.
Okay,
the director is great, by the way. Mamoru Hosoda. I would have had more of his movies, but I want to kind of balance things out. My number 5 is a yikes from Jake, and it's Akira from 1988. This is like a very groundbreaking and important anime movie. This is one of the first kind of anime movies that broke through to the sort of American and Western audience. And it's told in this sort of sci-fi called Neo Tokyo. This future where there's crazy, all kind of crazy art, and the government's kind of in chaos, and it's really just an expression of post World War II Japan and sort of its anxiety about itself and how powerful other people and themselves might become in sort of the aftermath. And it's got incredible animation. Like this, the way that they use light specifically in this movie is like astounding and one of the most insane things. And yeah, the movie is very Japanese inherently. It's very crazy, especially at the end. For some people, I think the ending doesn't totally work, but I think it's so ambitious in the sort of story it wants to tell, and it's so striking and moving, and it's really got really great action. It's a lot of things that I really look for in animated movies, and it's a super important animated movie in terms of like letting Western audiences be exposed to this style of filmmaking.
Jake, you had it at 8, I believe.
Yes.
So you can talk about it.
Yeah, this is the first, I guess, anime that I saw. I saw this years ago, and it's a really good film to get into the sort of genre of films, because it just kind of shows you what Japanese animation is like, and it's a out there story. I know it's based on a manga, but there's just so many crazy ideas that they do, and especially the last 30 minutes, it's just pure destruction, which is it's pretty fun to watch. But I really do like this movie. This is a really fun one. I would have had it higher if I rewatched it, but I think it's just really, really entertaining, and definitely one where if you really want to get into Japanese animation, this is one of the best ones to start watching first.
Yeah, Wi-Fi's acting a little wonky today, but this is the one I watched for this list. It's always been on the list to watch, just for what people talk about. I liked it. It just didn't really click with me. I think the ending did lose me a little bit, but I think the overall, it was something that I didn't expect to enjoy for as much as I did for leading up to that, till the ending. I think after maybe a few more views, it could actually grow on me. But I can definitely see what it did for that. As somebody that doesn't gravitate towards anime, I don't find that style entertaining for me. But I never thought hey, let's turn this off. I was bored or anything. It really had my attention the entire way. It just the ending, it just fell off for me. Anybody else for Akira?
I have similar feelings to Cody, actually. This is one of the early animated anime movies I ever saw. I think I was 11 when I first saw this film. And I've never actually rewatched it. I remember that I liked it. I didn't love it. And I believe that there are very, better anime movies that have been made that display similar things. And honestly, the one thing I went to my mind when you started talking about Akira is that I forgot about the Metropolis remake, and I should have put this on that list. Okay.
Maggie.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, fair. It is on Hulu for anybody that hasn't seen it. I saw it on Hulu today, so it's out there. Give it a shot. Number 4, Paul.
All right. I think this might be a yikes, but my number 4 is Princess Mononoke.
Yikes.
Yeah. Kind of.
Okay. Maggie, bring us back to down to earth. Bring us out of the elitist cloud. Tell us.
Wow.
Okay. All right, 7 through 4. So my number 7 is How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Yeah, okay. I absolutely love the How to Train Your Dragon movies. They're like the best DreamWorks animated movies, like by far. And this movie I know just came out recently, so it's definitely a lot of recency bias, but I really enjoy it. I think that it's a wonderful wrap up to the story. I like how they sort of progressed over the trilogy, how the characters all progressed, and this really is just like a great wrap up of it. Obviously, Toothless is great. All the voice actors are great. Jay Bernthal and is it Charlie's? No, it's not Charlie's Theron. Whoever the
Kate
mom
Blanchett.
is.
Kate Blanchett.
Thank you. I always mix those two up. And Kristen Wiig is one of the friends, and America Ferrera is the wife. So it's really just like a great film, and it's pretty. It's so beautiful. We saw it in not IMAX, but it was like
Dolby?
It's
maybe?
the Midwest. No, it's not Dolby.
Rip-off version of IMAX.
It's a rip-off version. I can't even remember what it's called right now.
We got a couple of days here as well.
Whatever Marcus does, but it's really great to see on a big screen if you have that opportunity.
Yeah, I absolutely love the How to Train Your Dragon series. I actually really enjoyed the Hidden World. I know me and Nazario definitely disagree on this right away, but it's fine. He's wrong. I'm right. So I really did enjoy this. I think this is one of the better villains in a DreamWorks movie, honestly. I think Grimmel is awesome. I think the voice acting of Abraham. Yeah, he's fantastic in this. And I do love the wrap up of the story, and I think it is one of the best animation looking for DreamWorks. So I'm glad they wrapped it up perfectly how they did it. Anybody else on Hidden World? I know Nazario's opinion, so let's go to Jake and Paul first.
Yeah. So I really love 2, and I think that maybe just my expectations were sort of the victim of this, but I was just a little let down by 3, the Hidden World. I like it. But just something felt off about sort of the conclusion of Hiccup's arc. Like, I think overall it's pretty strong, but I actually didn't love Grimmel as a villain. Something about him just didn't really connect for me. And I think the story with his mom in 2 is something that I'm just much more drawn to. And I love that sort of familiar element. And I feel like that was sort of pulled away from a bit. And it's more about the dragons in the Hidden World. So it just missed the mark a little. I still enjoyed it overall, but for me, just not quite as much as I did with 2. And I guess to a lesser extent with 1.
Jake?
I haven't seen Hidden World. I kind of like the How to Train Your Dragon films. I'm not the biggest fan. I think I would like it more if it took itself a little more serious. I'm never a fan of like anime films that really just use too much comedy. But yeah, they're fine.
Need depression in my animation. Nazario, what is?
I do agree that the villain in this one is probably the best one of the three. Well, there's not really a villain in the first one. But it's the best one of the 2. And I did not like the conclusion of the series, man. I really, really loved the first one. It barely missed this top 10 for me. And I just think that it had so much potential to grow and expand. I'm not that big of a fan of the second one. I think the same feeling that Paul had from 2 to 3 is the one I had from 1 to 2. And I expected some sort of rebound. And I didn't get it. And something about the closing part, and it's a small thing, but I feel that the final scene would have worked way better as a post-credit scene, because I didn't think they let us breathe. You know, there's this goodbye that happens, this separation, and then you're supposed to like immediately move on to whatever time has passed and the reunion. You haven't given the audience enough time to feel the loss of the goodbye, man. I mean, put the credits in, play it for 5 minutes, and then come back to that. It would have felt better. It's a nitpick, but it's one that really bothers me, and it just it doesn't let me appreciate the ending of that film.
So you don't like 2? Is that what
That's
you're
great.
saying?
Well, I think
That's a whole other thing.
I think they're all fine, but the only great one is 1.
What the? Okay. Okay. Please go to 6, Maggie, before I beat somebody from the call.
This is my Leica movie, and it's Kubo on the 2 strings. I think this movie is wonderful. It's just like I didn't know anything about it going to see it, and it just like was a really great, interesting story. Matthew McConaughey heckin' kills it in this movie as the Beetle, and then this one is Charlize Theron. I think that's why I was thinking about that as Monkey, and they're just like interactions and just like the twists and turns that it takes. And Ray Fiennes is the villain, and all of like I'm a huge like fantasy fan like this, so I just think it's really great, and it's definitely I think the best Leica movie, and yeah, I love it.
Yeah, Kubo. Kubo is one I did not get to see in theaters. I watched it later, and I was kind of bummed that I didn't see it in theaters because I really did enjoy it. I don't know if it'd personally make my top 10 list, but I think if you're going to put it on, I think 6 is an appropriate spot for it if it connected with you. I'm kind of curious because 2 people or 3, I think all 3 said that if you're going to put one on, it would be Coraline. So I'm interested to think what they thought of Kubo. So go ahead.
Yeah, my big thing with Kubo is just I think that this is, I mean, it's probably going to sound like a weird complaint for a lot of people, but there's really a lot of like sort of Buddhist metaphors that they try to insert into the story, and I think that stuff just doesn't work. I think they sort of misunderstand the type of story that they're trying to make an allegory for, and that stuff just doesn't work. I think it looks great, but ultimately I think just the themes and stuff don't really resonate very much for me. So that's what it is.
I'm pretty sad that I live in a place that doesn't really get every movie in theaters, because for a person like us that enjoy this, you really need sometimes to watch movies on the big screen. This is one that never played here. When it finally came out, I immediately bought it because I had already went down the Leica, drank the Leica Kool-Aid because I love Paranorman and I love Coraline. And then I started watching this in my bedroom on a 40-inch TV, and 5 minutes later, I decided to pause it and flip it to the living room to the 65-inch TV because that thing was freaking beautiful. I wanted to take it in as much as I could. The animation, it's so top-notch. It mixes CGI with stop animation that it's impressive what they achieved. And even if the story does have a little hiccups here and there, I think overall it works. I think the less you are familiar with the archetypes that they're trying to evoke of the culture, the more you can appreciate it, because it's kind of like, it's not fully a westernized version, but it's kind of a streamlined adaptation of that kind of movies for popular consumption. And I also love that they used the Beatles song in the end credits. This movie is beautiful. It's my number 2 Leica, so I left it out because of Coraline.
Oh, fair. Jake.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Kubo and the 3 Strings, and I need someone to get that. Yeah, I just never saw it, but I might see it one day.
Is it sad, guys? So Jake can actually watch it. No, let's move over to 5.
All right, so I was wrong when I said yikes earlier. There was a mistake. I'm a terrible listener. So my number 5 is the Lego Batman movie, not the Lego movie. I do not have the Lego movie on my list.
But Jake, I think Jake has it, so it's fine.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's fine.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Lego Batman movie, probably again, like half my movies have a serious recency bias. I have a problem. I saw this movie in theaters like 2 or 3 times maybe. I just think that it's really funny and really fun, and it just like knows exactly what it is, and is really willing to just go all out with the everything that Batman is, and I really enjoy that. Zach Galifianakis as the Joker is great. Obviously, Will Arnett as Batman. Michael, his last name.
Sarah.
Yes, thank you. As Joker, or not, Robin. I am having a brain fart right now. Sorry, guys. But anyway, it's just a fun movie, and as someone who was newly getting into like DC, and I had just recently watched all of the older Batman movies, like up to that point. Before that, I'd only seen the Dark Knight trilogy, so like seeing all these things, I finally like get all the stuff, and so yeah.
So I've been pretty tame. I hate this movie. I hate this movie. I remember everybody like coming out of the like when the reviews dropped for it, and everybody said, "What did they? They were like one of the best Batman stories. They didn't understand who Batman was. It's this blah blah blah." Like people just touted this as the funniest. I hated another movie, and we'll talk about that in another thing. But this one was really bad. I was bored.
Whoa, your audio just went crazy. Cody's audio just went wild. Turned into a robot.
That's how I felt. That's how I felt during this movie. I have not had a worse viewing of a movie since Hellboy 2019 before this one. So yeah, I'm good. I turned into a robot. My headphones kicked off.
Michael's comment.
What is Michael's comment?
It's a Decepticon's fault.
I have to play that one back now to see what it says. But no, I absolutely hate this movie. I think this movie is, and Brooklyn Vale like touts as like one of the best animated movies. Bad. It's just bad. The rest of you guys, go ahead. What do you guys think?
I actually, I think most people assume that I love this movie because it's a Lego movie and it's also a Batman movie, which is, I'm first a Batman guy, then a Lego guy. And I honestly, the first time I watched it, I was so freaking hyped for it. I thought it was going to be the perfect blending of two things I love. And I really walked out of the theater feeling completely and utterly disappointed the first time, because I actually expected, based on the commercials and the toy line that they made and everything, that they would actually use all these great Batman villains in this epic animated version of a story of Batman you cannot really make with live action. And 5 minutes in, all the bad guys are gone. It's just the Joker, and then it changes to this, I guess, different story with all bad guys from all movie worlds and stuff. I didn't like that, and I had to go back and rewatch it, changing my mindset, thinking more like, okay, this is gonna be a Batman spoof. It's gonna be a comedy. Yes, it has some heart to it. The story about Batman learning to share with family and how he doesn't do relationships, and then he embraces it by the end of the movie. To this day, I still think this movie is good, very, very far from great. I wouldn't even consider it part of top 20, top 25 even. It's so far what I expected from this movie, and it's so far from what the Lego movie itself was, that even though I can appreciate it and I like the toys, I cannot think of this movie as good as people think it is.
Calm yourself, Nazario. Let's go to the other two.
Yes, so I will say there's one really funny gag in this. That's when he's watching Jerry Maguire over and over again. I honestly found that part really, really funny. But this movie is kind of like, to a lesser extent, is sort of my issue with the Lego movies. It's just too much going on. It's too many jokes jam-packed into such a small time frame. And I think it's just too silly and too out there for me. I don't think it lets any jokes breathe, and I think it points at all the humor, and that stuff just doesn't really work for me. I think this is a solid movie, but I think coming out of it, I was like riding a high, just because like I watched this with one of my film classes, and one of our professor is like a co-producer on this, so I think everyone really wanted to like it because he was there. But then after I rewatched it, I was like, oh man, I don't think I like this as much as I thought that I did, and I sort of convinced myself that I did. So it's definitely not bad. I don't hate it, but I just think it's kind of there for me. It's decent. I think it's got some interesting Batman sort of meta commentary, but overall, it doesn't really work for me.
Yeah, I watched the first minute of the movie, and then it opened with a Michael Jackson quote from Man in the Mirror, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to watch this. The subtlety of the Lego movie is gone I'm just watching a film where Will Arnett's going to pay for a new yacht. So, no, I stopped watching it.
Oh, I'm sorry, it didn't live up to the brilliance of the one you felt so high. We'll go to your 4, Maggie.
My 4 is, I think I know what it is. Yes, it is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So again, a movie that just came out recently, but it was one of my favorite movies of last year. Saw it twice or 3 times in the theater. It's a great theater experience. Again, all the voice actors in this. I really have one complaint with this movie, and that I think that some of the extra spider people were unnecessary. I get why they were there, but I think that ultimately they were a waste of time. But really, it's a tiny complaint. Like, they still have great moments, and it's really a great story about, learning who you are and accepting that and growing with that. So it's obviously a great movie, and I think that most people here would agree with that.
Yeah, Nazario, you had it as well?
Yeah, actually, it's one of the best movies of the recent years in animation. It's definitely the best Spider-Man film that they have made so far. And it introduced me, honestly, to Miles Morales. I was not very aware of his comic book history, and it was a very interesting take on a character. I kind of wish they had gotten Tobey Maguire to play Peter Parker, the version that comes to this dimension, because it would have been kind of a tied up with the other
Jake
movie.
Johnson is wonderful.
Tobey Maguire is a bad actor. Continue.
He is, but I mean, I'm doing it because of what they were trying to do, which they obviously were trying to do that. It's the only world in the Spider-Verse that actually has the same brands as us, and it's kind of an insane take on the thing. And I actually agree with Maggie that some of the spider people felt a little underused, but all of them were pretty fun. And I think they got the point they wanted with it. That is just, this is a bunch of spider people that exist today, and later we'll give them their own movies. It's a fun movie, and it actually is a very great theater experience, and the soundtrack is great. The soundtrack is pretty sweet.
I love this movie. I think this movie is brilliant in everything that it accomplishes and sets up. I'm with Maggie. I think the Spider-Ham, Spider-Noir, and
Penny Parker.
Penny Parker.
Penny Parker. Yeah. I believe they're very rushed into the story.
Noir too. I get the other two, but interesting. Go ahead.
They were just like thrown in, like everybody else was treated like, hey, these are actual characters, and these are all 3 at once. Because we want to do multiple ones. I would just like to see a little bit more of those characters. Like, if you're going to introduce them, I would just like the same dedication to the other characters. But they did something. Spider-Man's my favorite superhero, so to see this world built that you can't do really on the big screen yet. I loved the idea, and I loved how it paid off. I love the animation style of it. Even at some parts where it seems 3D because it's blurry and stuff, but the crossovers and how they build this world. I think the battle at the end is very cool. And I think Miles Morales is one of the best Spider-Man we get on screen by far. Just the struggles that he faces in that, and seeing the other people that have already mastered their stuff trying to help him through it. I think this is a correct choice. I'd honestly like it a little higher because I honestly really love this movie. It's slowly becoming my favorite Spider-Man movie. But what do you guys think of this one?
So honestly, it probably is on my list if I'm being honest with myself, but I knew that other people would have it, so I kind of wanted to talk about other stuff, which, people can think about that what they will. But this is my favorite Spider-Man movie too, by a pretty wide margin. For me, the scene that really defines the movie is the scene where Miles is talking to his dad through the door when he's tied up on the chair. And that scene makes me cry every time when he's just talking about how his uncle, he's basically describing just the way that his uncle sort of drifted apart from their family and how he doesn't want that to happen to him. I'm literally getting chills talking about it right now. But no, I think this is a wonderful, beautiful movie. It's got an incredible soundtrack. I love the character of Gwen. She doesn't have a lot of screen time, but I think it's so effective the way that they characterize her so quickly, and you get attached to her really easily. I love that. Peter B. Parker is phenomenal. Yeah, I'm not crazy about Spider-Ham. But I really like Spider-Man Noir, and I just think overall it's a great movie. Just with so much great stuff going on, the animation style is amazing. I could talk about it for a long time, but yeah, this is an amazing movie. It's probably more of my list probably sucks for not having it.
It does. Jake?
This is a good movie. A good movie. I was not completely wowed. I think the animation is like almost flawless, to be honest. There's so many small stylistic choices that they did. They had Miles at like 12 frames and everyone else just 24. It's kind of like just a really small detail that you wouldn't notice until you watch a YouTube video telling what they did. But it's I think beautifully. It's beautifully animated, but I just don't care really much for the story. I know that's blasphemy in this community, but I really do like it, but I just don't. I'm not in love with it like everyone else, and I don't know if that's just because I'm a cold, heartless bastard, but it's just. I think it's a good movie. It's one that
because you're just a stand for Sam Raimi Spider-Man, so
that is true. That could be true. I am a Sam Raimi apologist, and I think that the first two.
If Uncle Ben actually died in this one, he would be a bigger fan of it. Let's move on to
Nazario. Wait, Jake's? No, wait.
Nazario.
No, Jake has to do his 7 through.
I lost. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Melissa's been shit, but yeah, it's number 7 is a film I rewatched last night. I had a feeling this was going to make it. It's a town called Panic. I don't think anyone has ever heard of this movie or has seen this movie.
I literally didn't hear about this until Jake told me about this.
Yeah. It's a 2009 stop-motion animated French film. The main characters are an Indian, a cowboy, and a horse. And
Is this a bad stand-up joke?
And they are trying to find their house, which has been stolen by these amphibious creatures. It's very stylistically French. It's also a short movie. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes. And besides that, the pacing is so quick. And there's never any dull moments. It's just an exhilarating ride from beginning to end. It starts off with Indian and cowboy trying to get a present for Horse because it's his birthday. Horse is in love with the piano teacher, who's also a horse, and basically they accidentally order too many bricks, and then they start making a house, and then the house gets stolen, and they have to try and find the house. It's very French. It's very out there, and I really love. This is a film that I would like to show just young people. I showed my little brother a couple years ago, and he had a good time. I don't know, someone's going to make a comment. What are you doing, Paul? But yeah, I just have so much fun watching this movie. I don't know if you guys know, but the movie is French, so yeah. I enjoyed this film. It's a really great film. I highly recommend it. There's a show and there's another movie that came out like 2016. But yeah.
I think it's fun. I'll just keep this short. I'll check it out. Anybody else?
Just watch the trailer. I think that's what it is.
Okay, fair. Paul, Maggie, Nazario, anybody on this movie?
No thoughts. Move on.
I actually wanted to give this movie a watch once. Then I saw the trailer and I thought it was enough.
That's fair.
Okay, go to your 6.
My number 6 is a film I actually watched for this list. And shut up. And it's okay, serious. It's one I watched for this list, and that is the Australian 2009 film Mary and Max. I had a feeling it may or may not make your list, Paul, but this is almost devastating. This type of movie. It's an Australian film that by Adam Elliott.
Yeah.
He won a I can't remember what the short was, but he won the Academy Award for animated short years ago, and this is his first feature. It has Philip Seymour Hoffman, Toni Collette, Eric Bana. They're kind of the main 3 of like people you'd know in the film, but the main 2 leads are PSH and Collette. And it's basically just about a young Australian girl writing letters to a pen pal in New York, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, and just kind of them just explaining just life events and getting through. Fair enough. And it's just them like just talking about their problems that they experience in life, and Mary's getting bullied, and Max is suffering from panic attacks and obesity, and it deals with so much that it's truly like heartbreaking what happens throughout the movie. Just you feel so bad for both characters, just because they're not in control of their own fate, and there are so many great stylistic choices. The animation, it's just so brilliant. The colors, the use of colors, there's a specific intention with that I think is brilliant, and you feel so many different things, and yet it deals with suicide, obesity, mental disease, bullying, alcoholism, and yet it has like fart jokes in it. Like it's so crazy what it tries to do, and it's such a perfect blend of these ideas. And Philip Seymour Hoffman and Toni Collette, Collette is not really in it until the second half, but they both do such a fantastic job, especially PSH. Like he plays like a Jewish atheist, and he's doing something slightly different with his voice, and it just completely sells his character. And yeah, the ending is so melancholy that I just felt like something I hadn't usually felt in a movie before. But yeah, I think it's just breathtaking of a film.
This was definitely on my watch list. I've seen this actual like poster and I've seen it just brought up in numerous times, and I just have never like searched it out. But when I looked it up when you sent me your list, I was like, I've seen this movie somewhere, but I've never actually like went around to watching it. So it's definitely still on the watch list. I just didn't have time to see it before this list. Anybody else on this? I know Paul actually.
Jake so I watched it for this list, and I was the one who told Jake to watch it because I thought it was worth at least exploring for the list. But yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, Jake sort of did a little bit of disservice, I think, to the comedy, because actually it's really, really funny. It's really dry humor, which really fits in with the sort of animation style. It's kind of all black, grayed out in sepia tones, so it feels like all drab. But really, like, there's a lot of heart in the movie, and I think the friendship between Mary and Max is really wonderful. They're both these huge outcasts in society, and the way they connect it's just really random. She just finds his name in a phone book and decides to write to him, and they become friends, and their friendship lasts a long time, and it goes through its ups and downs, but it's really meaningful, and the ending is very powerful. Yeah, I thought it was wonderful. It was really close to making my list, and maybe if I saw it again, it might, but it's emotionally a little draining, but it's also, again, it's really funny, and I just think it's moving in the unique type of movie that doesn't really have a lot of movies that you can really compare it to. It's really great.
All right, fair. Nazario, Matt, Maggie.
I realized this movie existed when it popped up twice on my letterbox. Recently watched by these two guys, and I'll probably check it out at some point. But I gotta say, listening to the description for an Australian film, it sounds very French.
It feels more American than French, really. But yeah, it's interesting.
We can be done with this joke, man.
Maggie?
I haven't seen it. I haven't even heard of it. It sounds like I could not watch it right now because it sounds depressing, but maybe in the future.
Fair. Jake?
Oh, wait, my phone just closed. Let me bring it up. So, number 5. This is another film I know no one have ever seen, maybe because it hasn't been released yet, and that is Weathering with You.
God fucking damn it.
So, unfortunately, I can't really talk too much because I know Paul really wants to see it, and it's not getting a release till, what, 2020?
2020 in the United States.
Yeah. So I somehow was able to. It somehow got a release here, and yeah, this is Makoto Shinko's follow-up to Your Name, and Weathering with You is kind of similar in style and tone and kind of storytelling, but it's own completely own vision, ideas, and yeah, I really want to talk a lot more about it. But the simplest of stories, it's about a boy who meets a girl, and she can control the weather, and basically the friendship between both of them Yeah, I know, right? The friendship between both of them and how it grows throughout the film and circumstances that happen towards the second half. I just was just amazed, and also the animation is just it's absolutely brilliant. Like one of the best beautifully animated films ever. Makoto Shinkai. I don't know how he does it, but he does so many different roles on all of his films, and they all look gorgeous. He's like the Terrence Malick of animation in terms of just cinematography. But yeah, it's absolutely brilliant, and I would recommend it, but I gotta wait till it comes out.
Yeah, when I searched all the movies, I said have to be theatrically released. Well, apparently Australia got it. We did not, so no chance of seeing this one. So we'll move along real quick. Good job, Jake, making the show very interactive. Let's go to your number 4.
Number 4 is, I think this is a yikes. Yeah, this is a yikes from Nazario, and that's Anomalisa.
Okay, go ahead.
You have to talk about it now. So I don't know if I've really gone into it, but I'm a big Charlie Kaufman fan. I've always liked all the films he's written. I like the films he's directed, and this is one of those films. This is his first adventure into stop animation. He co-directed this with Duke Johnson, who did a show called, I think, Moral Oral, which I haven't seen, but I've been told good things. And this is, from the story, it wouldn't seem like it would be an animated film. It's about a motivational speaker who written a book and is staying at a hotel and he suffers from, Fragoli syndrome, I think, where
I wouldn't say it too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
He suffers from a disorder, and he meets a woman who stands out to him. And it's kind of just basically, it takes place in almost like a 24-hour span. It's almost real time, and it's just kind of about this relationship between these two characters, and it feels so real. The dialogue, it's so natural. The mistakes we make when we speak, and the animation is perfect. Like it's very simple. It doesn't do anything crazy. There is a certain stylistic choice that I won't spoil, but it just tells us like a human story. And I think a lot of the quotes, if you find the quote on like the Blu-ray, it'll be like the most human film ever, and it doesn't star a human in the film. But David Thewlis is great, and oh my god, I'm blanking on
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah.
Jennifer Jason Leigh. They both do such a great job at like capturing their characters, and I think this film is great, and it should have won the Best Animated Feature Oscar instead of Bloody Inside Out. But what can you do? So I think this is absolutely astounding of a film.
The amount of detail that they put into the animation of this film is insane. The most minutia little things that people wouldn't even notice if they were in there, like a little flower on the desk, or his watch, or the details on the phone. For a movie that was made by also stop animation, the amount of detail that they put into this movie is insane. And I think you kind of I don't know if you did it on purpose, but you should have mentioned that Tom Noonan also is actually pretty good. He's the only other person.
Jesus Christ. I'm trying to not spoil the movie for everyone else. Good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Great voice actor. That's all I'm saying.
Tom Noonan is in the film.
Yeah, you're about to. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and anything. Yes, most people, actually including my wife, say that this movie could have been done live action, probably, but I don't think it would have been as
impactful,
and it wouldn't have the aura that it has. It has kind of like that surrealness that it gets you into this really mundane situation in a really weird, obtuse way. It's actually a pretty great film, and yes, Charlie Kaufman, anything that guy has done has been from good to great. So look for his movies, the ones he's written, the ones he's directed.
Except Human Nature, you don't have to watch that.
Oh, I love that one. Come on.
I mean, what happened to Cody?
Hi.
I
I don't know where he is, so I was.
Hey,
never mind. Bye.
Parenting comes into play sometimes. Yes, I actually watched this movie for the first time. I don't get the hype. It's been brought up numerous times. I liked it. I did. I think more watches, I will like it more. But it wasn't like it was brought up so many times. on different various shows about, well, you've got to see this, you've got to see this, you got to see this. And I finally watched it. Maybe it was overhyped. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe if I would have just stumbled upon it, I would have liked it a little bit more. But I can understand why people really do enjoy it. It just didn't click right away for me. But good job spoiling it for the rest of the people that haven't seen it yet. So no need to watch it anymore. Okay, we're going to threes now, right?
Are we doing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just want to say a quick thing. I watched this like 12 hours ago for the first time.
Oh, yeah, if you haven't talked about it, please talk about it.
Yeah. So I watched this for the first time like 12 hours ago. Maggie's brother actually is one of the big reasons that I watched this movie. He's like a very big. Robert loves this movie very much.
Sure.
But it's like, I don't know, it's so surreal and it's really eerie and it's just so uncanny, and I think that's one of the best qualities about it. I just missed out on my list by a little bit, but I think it's really brilliant. I think there's a lot to unpack, and I think it's tough to. I don't know if I want to rewatch it though, because it puts me in such a weird psychological state and really kind of messes with me for a while. But I thought it was really moving and really, really beautifully made, and I'm so glad it wasn't made in live action. This would be so much less interesting in live action. I think also just way harder to do, just because of a lot of the stuff that's going on. But yeah, I thought Anomalisa is great. I would recommend it to anybody.
So hey, Nazario, you're
There's
three.
Cody and there's Cody. Yeah.
Sorry. Again, be a parent sometime. It's not fun. Okay, let's go to your number three, Nazario.
My number three, it's my oldest movie on my list. Again, this is a director that actually has several decent and near great films in his story, but I decided to pick one, and I actually think the best one he ever made was actually the first one he made. So I'm including Don Bluth's The Secret of NIMH.
Do it.
Yeah.
This is based on a children's book called Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of NIMH, and it's actually it starts as a pretty basic story of a family of mice that lives on a cinder block next to a farm. And when the farmer decides that he has to, cut the lawn to start the farming season, they really have to move because their house is going to be destroyed. And after that, she looks out for help from the owl, which is the wise creature of the forest, and she guides her to the Rats of NIMH, which is this super intelligent race of rats that were experimented on and now developed their own form of society that live underground on the farm. And because they are now intelligent people, they realize that they cannot live as rats, depending on the stolen things or the goodness of the creatures that are smarter, that they no longer are smarter than them. And they decide to take a vote to see if they have to live by themselves as independent beings. It gets really, really interesting in that way because it starts arguing morality of what is okay and what is moral and what is not moral from the point of view of creatures that usually are, vermin. And the story itself also goes pair in pair with Mrs. Frisbee's real danger of losing her house and her children. And it culminates in a scene that brings everything together, including the story. Including the reason why she is a widow in the first place, because of the Jonathan Frisbee, who's actually died as a hero. It's a great film. If you haven't seen it, it's from I don't remember if it's late 70s or early 80s.
84.
But it's pretty great, and it's actually worth the look.
Yeah, this is one that I thought would be on more people's list, honestly. Maybe they can tell me why. I enjoyed it when I was a kid. I haven't seen it in a long, long time, but this is one that I watched a lot when I was a kid. So I thought maybe, but maybe not. So I enjoy it being your number three. Jake, Paul, Maggie, why no Secret of NIMH?
So I have this is embarrassing. I saw the sequel before I saw the first film. The director, it's Timmy to the rescue. My nan had both films, and for some reason she had the second film before the first one, so I watched that for some reason. And it's not that bad. Maybe that's why I'm not as big into Secret of NIMH. I mean, I think it's a really, well done film, and I really liked some of the ideas that it presents. The conflict between the society of rats, but I haven't seen it in. Or was it mice? I don't know. They're the same. But I haven't seen it in a while, so yeah, it's one that I could have rewatched. The plot twist, but it didn't get theatrically released. So, in your face, Malcolm. Yeah, so I like it a lot, but it's been a while. So.
Yeah, this is a like, not love for me. I will say one thing: Toy Story 4, Secret of Nim did the cat named Dragon first, so ha. But no, it's good. I like it. There's definitely like some sort of deeper themes that play with the entire Institute of Mental Health that they're sort of housed in. But overall, it just didn't strike me that much. Some stuff I like, but I don't think there's anything that for me makes it really extraordinary to make it above all these other movies that I love so much.
Yeah, I've never seen it, so sorry.
You stole Jake's line.
Fair. We'll go to Paul. Give us your 3.
My number 3. I don't know if this would be a yikes or not. My number 3 is actually pretty recent. It is a little film called Your Name. It is the highest grossing anime film of all time. It is. Listen, you got a yikes. There you go.
Okay. I'll go to Maggie. 3.
All right, my number 3 is How to Train Your Dragon, the first one, because I'm a How to Train Your Dragon shill, and I love them. And the first one is definitely my favorite. I think that the smaller story is better. I think that the 2 villains that they have in the second and the third ones definitely are like the weakest point, and just like Hiccup and his father, coming to terms with who each other are, and Hiccup's general growth, like learning that he can still be like a leader and like a person, even though he's not what everyone thinks that he should be. It's just an overall great story. The animation is great, and I love it.
100% fair. I love How to Train Your Dragon. How to Train Your Dragon 1 would probably have made my list if I made the list. Well, maybe I wouldn't say a little high. I enjoyed this movie. I watched it recently. Yeah, yeah. Okay, Koho. I could just imagine Megamind. Okay, shut your face. How to Train Your Dragon.
Koho would have Rock Dog at number 2. So.
But How to Train Your Dragon is a brilliant story. I love the trilogy. I have been. I like the 3 movies. I think they're fantastic. So I have no problem with this being on your list. Good job. The rest of you suck, so tell me why you suck.
I mean, yeah.
I think most of us have pretty much.
Yeah, I know Nazario almost made your list. Jake just apparently hates it because there's not enough death or depression in it. And Paul.
Yeah, I just love 2 the most of these. I think the relationship with the mother really makes the second movie. 1 is really good.
Who's on trial?
It's just I don't know, and then I guess all of us.
Put somebody on trial.
I think all of us. But I will say this: I think this is some of the best world building I've ever seen in an animated movie. And the way that it introduces you into this crazy world, there's so many possibilities, and I think it's an amazing accomplishment. And DreamWorks should be very proud of this. It's a great movie. Like just not as I don't love it as much as the rest of the movies on my list.
I think it's literally number 11 on my list. I am sorry, I just had to put Happy Feet in there.
You had to remind us that Happy Feet was in there.
Right?
If you would have said anything, I would have been like, oh, yeah, 11, that makes sense. But then you're like, Happy Feet. And we're like,
close to grading, and you have to bring
Happy
that
Feet,
one
not
up.
even the best penguin animated movie, but that's the whole Surf's Up. That's a whole other thing. Go ahead.
Pretty good.
Let's move along. Jake, please tell us what's your number 3.
How am I going to recover from that take? Okay. So
Both of you
number
said some ridiculous things. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there. So number 3 is this is borderline not an animated film, but there's a certain thing that this director did that makes it animated, that makes it very interesting. It's Waking Life. Richard Linklater's film from 2001, I want to say. It's so I'm trying to think of how to describe this. So Linklater, I feel like he makes 2 types of movies. He makes the coming of age film that most people could watch, and then he makes the weird, intellectual movie talk film.
And also Bad News Bears.
And Bad News Bears. That's also the third category of films. And this is his first film into animation. He did the Before trilogy, which I've talked about many times. I love the trilogy. And this is kind of his attempt at doing something completely different in that he had ever done before. He in like the early 2000s, he was like in some kind of experimental phase. He did a film called Tape, which is all shot on video, and this one was shot on video. And then what he did was with the animation, he rotoscoped everything, and it's about a guy who's in a dream and talking with people, and it's essentially just discussions about a life, existence, one's place in the universe. Just all of these pseudo-intellectual discussions that I really find fascinating. There's even a cameo by Jesse and Celine from the Before trilogy in this movie, talking about where one's soul comes from and incarnation, and it just really just deals with so much talk and discussion about just one's place in the world, and I just find it really pleasing because it just makes me feel optimistic about my life. There's so many cameos in the film. Alex Jones has a cameo. Steven Soderbergh is briefly seen in the film. Linklater is also in the film. It's just basically a guy going through. It stars the guy from Dazed and Confused. I can't even remember.
Wiley Wiggins, the guy who plays Mitch Kramer, the young pitcher. In
the guy that plays, yeah. He's in the film. He plays the main character, and the animation is so. It's the most stylized animation I think outside of probably Into the Spider-Verse that I've seen. It's everything is intentional, and it just makes me feel curiously optimistic for what I can do for my life.
Fair. Haven't got around to watching this one. So yeah, rest of you guys. I know Paul's probably watched it for sure.
Yeah, so this would not be my pick if I was going to go with the Linklater animated movies. I much prefer Scanner Darkly, which is like a darker, more serious story. I think this is good, and it's really interesting. It's sort of, I don't know if people are familiar with rotoscope, but it's the same style as the movie I mentioned earlier, Tower, and it's again it's basically drawing animated outlines of real live action people, and it's sort of this kind of washed out color scheme. You can just kind of go look up Waking Life or whatever, but it's an interesting style of filmmaking. This is one of kind of the big first moments of rotoscoping, but it's good. It never really connected for me in the same way it does for Jake, so that's all it is.
I actually think Oyama stole my line. I was going to say that if you were going to choose between the two, Scanner Darkly, to me, it's more interesting. I think he kind of broke the ice with Waking Life, and I do think that Waking Life is the more optimistic, imaginative, free movie. It's a great movie to experience once, but I wouldn't go back to it many times. I think Scanner Darkly actually gives you more of a reason to keep coming back. And I really like them both. I own them both in Blu-ray. But like I said, I think I've watched Waking Life twice since it came out 20 years ago. And Scanner Darkly I've seen at least 10 times.
Maggie, you with me?
I haven't seen it.
Fair. Move along. Nazario, give us your two.
My number two is Yikes from earlier. I actually really had a hard time picking what Studio Ghibli I was going to put in this list. And it basically came down to My Neighbor Totoro and Princess Mononoke. And I decided to go with Princess Mononoke because, weirdly, it was actually the first one I ever decided that I wanted to own. I saw Totoro many times when I was a kid. I love that movie. And to this day, it's probably the one I showed my kid. He's 3 years old because the story is so simple and beautiful. But yet Mononoke, it's like a fable thrown into the screen with great detailed, beautiful animation by Miyazaki, and it tells you the story of progress versus nature. And it doesn't do it in a completely kid-friendly way. It's very raw about it because it has the gods of the forest fighting the technology of Lady Eboshi, who brings the firearms, and actually very forward thinking because she is a very feminist character that only wants to employ women in her army, making the weapons and using the weapons. And the fight literally against the forest and the spirit of the forest in the end of the movie, it's a beautiful fable about how humanity needs to find the balance between nature and technology, and I think I like that way more than Spirited Away, that actually got all the accolades internationally. I feel like this was a little overlooked, but it's definitely my number one Ghibli film.
Yeah, so this was my number 4. This is one of my favorite animated movies ever. The themes again of nature versus evolution are just so brilliantly done. It's hyper violent. Just as a warning, there are people getting decapitated with arrows and all kind of really crazy violence. But I think that set against sort of this serene nature presence is what makes the film sort of so interesting. It's sort of the two sides. In the English dub, Minnie Driver is like an amazing voice for Lady Eboshi. Like she gives a really great performance in that. But yeah, again, it's gorgeous. I don't think that can say too much that Nazario didn't already say. It's again, Miyazaki loves to talk about humans' interaction with nature, and I think this is sort of his apex of that, and sort of him exploring that to its best. And I think it's one of the great anime movies ever. It's got great characters. Like Billy Bob Thornton's also great in the English dub as the Jigo, the little sketchy little man with the big stuff on his back. But no, it's great. It's entertaining. It's beautiful. It's kind of like almost anything I'd want in an animated movie. It's got a great message.
I forgot to mention that when Disney got the distribution rights for the Ghibli films, they gave the dubbing work to Pixar. So basically, Pixar was selecting the actors for the voice translations to the American version. And yes, the translation, the dubbing for Princess Mononoke is pretty great. It has Gillian Anderson, it has Billy Crudup, it has Claire Danes. It's really, really well done.
Jay Burns told me before this episode that this is the one and only correct choice from Studio Ghibli is this one right here.
Imagine thinking it's the only correct choice. But anyway, go ahead.
But I was just like, okay, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to see it. It was not one that I was able to get in time. I've heard great things about it. I've heard, even though I'm not the biggest Studio Ghibli fan, but I think that this one may surprise me. There was one that did surprise me, so so I have nothing really to say more than that. Maggie, Jake?
I haven't seen it.
Is it depressing, Paul? Because
no,
I'm pretty sure.
No.
Oh, that's why, Jake. Got it. Cool.
No.
We'll move along. Not enough depth for you. Let's move on to.
Speaking of depressing and death, my number 2 is one of my favorite. I think it's my favorite war film of all time. It's 1988's Grave of the Fireflies. This is, I think, an out-and-out masterpiece. I think this is, again, one of the great war films, and I think that's something that's a little overlooked. It's raw, and it's real, and it doesn't pull any punches. It's really sort of the foot-on-the-ground horror of war from the Japanese side of World War II, and it's this brother and sister trying to survive. They don't have money, and they're struggling to find food, and it's such a human and simple story. The ant in this movie is one of the most despicable characters of any animated movie ever. She's a horrible, horrible human being. But no, this is just a beautiful movie, and I can't watch it very often just because it's really emotionally draining. This is one of the hardest I've ever cried in a movie of my entire life. But it's just so moving, and I think it's so impactful and valuable. And I'm so glad that a movie like this exists. Like the scenes of Setsuko at the train station, and just him with the sister, and obviously there's the stuff at the end. But man, this movie, it just moves me so much. And rest in peace to the director, Risa Takahata, who passed away about a year and a half ago. But yeah, it's just great.
This movie, whew. I told Paul that I was going to watch the movies. This one was on Hulu. I watched it. Like the movie opens up with this, like, this is the day that, it basically breaks down what happens to him. And it is literally probably the hardest I've cried in a movie in probably the last 10 years. My wife walked home from lunch. She saw me watching some movies that I don't normally watch at all. And she said, what are you watching? And looked at me and said, "You didn't even cry this hard at our wedding. What are you doing?" And I was like, well, this movie is fucking sad. So thanks, Paul, for that. I will probably never watch this movie again just because of how I felt afterwards. This literally drained me of it was so heartbreaking. It is a beautiful film. I couldn't agree more with you for putting it on to. It will probably be on my list moving forward when I talk about animated movies. one that I'll never have to watch again, but the way this animation actually made me feel was insane. And I didn't think, again, I'm not a fan of that kind of animation style or anything, but really, really good. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. It's on Hulu. Be in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, be in the right mood. Don't
don't
just
watch
this
this
if you're frazzled. Yeah,
because I'm in a jokey mood. It will literally suck every bit of life out of you, and that ant is awful. Anybody else on Grave of the Fireflies?
You know how sometimes parents think that everything that is animated is for children and they don't really care and just put things on? My dad did this for me when I was 9 years old. I don't think I could sleep well for like 5 days. I was having nightmares about well, I'm not going to say why, but you know why. The children of Japan. And then I just couldn't get myself to go back to it. I actually forgot it existed for a while until my 20s, where somebody started talking about this amazing movie and describing the plot. And I was like, oh my God, I saw that thing. And then he actually borrowed me a copy, and I rewatched it with my now wife, and we cried our eyes out for hours. I bought it. I think I own 3 copies of it, and I haven't ever went back to see it. I just feel like I want to own it. And it didn't make my list because Princess Mononoke made my list. So no more Ghibli for me.
Maggie, Jake.
I haven't seen it.
Jake.
I haven't seen it, but I want it just based on what I've heard about the film
Yes.
for years, and I'm going to see it someday.
For this one, you need to go see that one.
My type of stuff. Okay.
Probably your number 1. But Maggie, tell us what your 2 is.
Yeah, so my number 1 and number 2 are very nostalgia heavy picks. My number 2 is Anastasia. Because I'm a girl and I watch this movie a lot, and it's like the most non-Disney movie that I could pick. And the music's really great. It's just a great story of learning who you are and connecting back with your past and not being afraid of the past. And John Cusack's great. I just realized that Angela Lansbury is the grandmother, which I didn't know, obviously, as a child. But thinking about that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. But yeah, I really like it. I haven't seen it in maybe 2 or 3 years, so I probably should watch it again. But I have a feeling that even when I rewatch it, even if it maybe isn't as like good as I remember, I still think that I will really enjoy it.
Yeah, I need to get the trial sign on for this one. So when I met my wife, our first thing where we watched the movie, and I said, "What's your favorite movie of all time?" And I'll bring my favorite movie of all time. We'll watch both and see how we, see about it. So we watched The Lion King first, and it was grand old time. And then she pulled out Anastasia, and I literally did not know how this relationship was going to go. I hate this movie. I hate this movie just because of what my wife has made me see this movie. She tells me it's better than all the Disney animation. This is her movie. I can't stand it. The bat in it is fantastic. I do a fantastic bat impression of what I've heard, but that's about it. The overall movie I don't like. I told my wife once that I thought we were going to end in a divorce because I said this movie wouldn't be in the top 50 of Disney animations, so it wouldn't even be close to the top. But yeah, it has a special spot in her, but I honestly can't stand it. I think it's very B-rated of an animated movie. But I think Fox, I think it's under Fox, so I think Disney bought it, so she's technically a Disney princess now, or whatever I heard. Who cares? She's not great. Let's never move along. And my wife wants me to go see the musical version of this, and I refuse. So, anybody else on Anastasia?
Okay. I actually, I like this movie. It's not one of my favorites. It's not something I've seen a lot. I haven't seen it in like 5 or 6 years, really. So I wonder what I would think of it now. Everyone, Michael's favorite part is the first 5 to 10 minutes, which has Kirsten Dunst in it, of course. But I really like Meg Ryan in this movie. I think it's like, I wish she would have done more sort of animated roles. I think she's pretty talented at sort of expressing her voice. But yeah, like I like it. It's just not one of my favorites. I mean, it's a lot of girls that I know really love this movie, and I think that's really cool that there's a movie that sort of can sort of unite women. I think that's pretty dope. But yeah, not my favorite.
Oh my God.
I think that Don Bluth didn't really have a great 90s in general. But even on other films, at least he was trying to do something different. And I think the marching orders for this one was like, do a Disney film. You go there and do a Disney film so we can make our money. And he did something that barely resembles a Disney film, but
Wow.
doesn't really have that pull, that magic that they do. I like the song Once Upon a December. I like Meg Ryan and John Cusack. The villain is Christopher Lloyd being goofy, and I really do not like those villains that don't like have direct interactions most of the movie with the character. He's just like over there doing his magic things and trying to like affect the outcome of the thing. This movie is not very good. It's just, I don't hate it, but it's very, very meh.
Tell us how you really feel, Nazario. Okay, Jake, what did you think?
Yeah, I think when I was young, I actually thought I must have mistaken this for a Disney film, just because not necessarily the animation, but just the story. It seems very Disney, and it's also about a princess. But no, I do like this film. I'm kind of with I watched it a couple of months ago, and it's I think it holds up pretty well. The animation's very Don Bluth, and there's a lot of elements I enjoy about the film. I can't say that I'm like in love with the movie, but I totally get why, and I think it's really good. So I really can't argue that. No.
My wife texted me while I was saying that to watch my mouth. Anastasia is brilliant. So, yeah, still wrong for all these years. But I don't enjoy it. Let's go to Paul. Oh, Jake.
It's Jake's too.
Yeah, mine too.
I'm trying to avoid this. So, go ahead.
That's it. Okay. So this is a film that's mentioned a couple of times, and I don't want Paul to say anything, but it's the Lego Movie. So yeah, I as a kid I loved Lego. It was one of my favorite pastimes.
As a kid?
As a kid, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that now, but as a kid, I was in love with Lego, and then I found out there was a movie coming out, and the trailer didn't make me excited for it, as I think I should have been. No, it's not French. But, yeah, I went into the movie I took my brother to go see it, expecting he would love it and I'll be kind of apathetical, but it turned out to be vice versa. I absolutely adored this movie. Paul was making fun of me for mentioning the subtlety of it, but I think there is a lot of stuff that you wouldn't think about in a kid's animated film about, anti-capitalism, consumerism, a satire on government, which is still relevant today with, I don't want to get too much into politics, but there's a character who's very similar to a president. The themes about conformity and individuality, all of that stuff really hit home with me. And, are we done with these jokes?
We are.
And it's also, I think the animation's like brilliant. The technical achievement behind the film and how everything is so realistic. The imperfections, you can see like smudges, and you can see the line in the hair for all the pieces of Lego. It's all, I think, brilliantly done, and I feel like it's such a universal message about speaking about one's own individuality and imagination, and how, as Victrivia says in the film, you are the special. And I just think that really hit home for me, as far as just you can be creative in your own way. It doesn't matter what people try to put around you and force you to be something that you're not. And I just, there's so much to talk about and so many details. And I mean, Paul was talking about how there's so many jokes that it kind of doesn't give air to breathe. I kind of disagree, because I think that just makes multiple viewings more... It makes it much better for multiple viewers, because you pick up on other stuff that you wouldn't on your first viewing, and I think that really sells it for me. I could watch this any other day and wouldn't be bored by it or find it predictable. I mean, I watched it a couple of days ago, not knowing that this would be on the list and this would be high, but just because I absolutely enjoyed this movie and I think it's fun. And yeah, there's so, and I think even the music, like everything is awesome, which has kind of been overplayed, but there's also an intentional choice with the song and used in the film, and I think there's just so much subtlety that I think even would make fun of me about. I think it's really, really interesting. So yeah.
Nazario, please hurry up so I can just rip this apart.
I could
Maggie's just like watching her parents. It's like watching her parents argue right now.
I honestly could as easily go for an hour talking about this movie. This is my Toy Story.
Please don't. Please don't.
This is the kind of thing I had when I was
Yikes.
and that feeling of having your toys come to life in your imagination is something that I grew up with Lego, because that's what has always been my thing since I was a kid. And yeah, it has great imagination in it, with the way they put like real objects into the movie and mix them with the toys. Is the kind of thing you play with. You grab things and you start mixing things, mixing genres, mixing dolls, mixing everything. And the crackle is a brilliant detail. And yeah, even for people who actually like know about the details on Lego stuff, the cup with the two faces, the good cup and the bad cup, because all minifigures come with two faces. It's details like that that grab me. And I honestly, when my kid was born, I could have never thought I would be identifying myself so much with Will Ferrell, because that was me. I had my city and my builds and stuff, and I was like, look to the corner on the bucket. There's your Duplo. You go play with that. And every day I came back from work and he had moved my stuff. I got upset at the beginning until I actually realized that it's fun if we play together. I don't really have that many big things now laying around the house because he likes to remake them, and he plays around and uses his imagination, and it's just beautiful, man. It's a movie that has a really good message. It's very imaginative. It's very, very funny, and it's probably I think it's my favorite film after 2010's animated.
Is this
nothing?
Is this fucking real life? Is this movie? Do we see the same fucking movie? This is your Toy Story. Get it? You build Legos and do all your stuff. You know what? Me and your 3-year-old had something in common. I used my imagination while watching this movie in the theaters. I went anywhere but this movie. Everything is awesome. Went straight downhill. They bring in everything. They run all different things, and then they bring this weird thing at the end with Will Ferrell and like it's here. I couldn't stand this movie. I think this is another movie that got really overhyped. That people were like, it got robbed at the Oscars. Are you kidding me? It wasn't even nominated. And then I watched it. Shouldn't have been. Shouldn't even been close. Should have been at the Razzie Awards because it's bad. It is bad. The best acting in it is Shaquille O'Neal. Like, literally, as one of the Lego characters. I can't stand this movie. Everything is awesome. After the first 5 minutes, the movie goes downhill. It's trash. It doesn't give you a chance to breathe. It's like, Maha, you hear my joke? Maha, here's Batman. Oh, I'm going to make my own movie about him now. Lego movie should be straight to DVD, should not waste its budget on the big screen. Bad. Anybody else have anything to say? That's literally made this episode suck.
I will say, so Jake talked about how he loved seeing the blemishes and imperfections. I call that the screenplay. This movie, I just think it's kind of a mess. It's just kind of all over the place. It's too much at once. I think the message is just really obvious, like, oh, you're different and you can be whatever you want to be. It's like I've seen that in like 500 animated movies. I don't know. The humor doesn't work. I think that's the kind of the biggest thing. If the jokes landed, it would probably be a lot better experience. I will say the animation is really cool. I love how they animate the ocean and stuff like that. That stuff is really inventive. But no, it's really good, I guess for some people, but for me, it just falls really flat. And yeah, it's okay. I don't think it's like unwatchable, but it's I don't know. I think there's so many animated movies that are great out there.
Tell me about the sequel, Paul.
The sequel is a lot better, but that's a whole other discussion. That is a whole other discussion.
I'm kidding, but just do them more and do them obvious. So come on, you want to talk about the theme and Lego Movie 2? It's way more obvious than this one.
Okay, I'm back for round 2. Here we go. Jake, you've sit there the entire episode, and was like, well, it's got to have this, and it's got to have like emotion, it's got to have depression, and it's got to feel something. And then you literally put Lego Movie as your number 2. That has the ounce of heart that you figure out the story in the first 5 minutes, and you know where it's going to go, and you know the payoff, and you're like, got it. Done deal. I'm going to watch it even though I know it's going to be my number 2. I'm going to rewatch this movie because it's brilliant. But you've never seen Grave of the Fireflies when you could have watched that instead.
Well, I mean,
you are
two completely different things, so let's just...
Malcolm, you stop. You are in the Hall of Fame for a reason. You do not know. I believe Paul. I believe the second one's probably better because the first one's bad. Maggie, I'm sorry. You had the Lego Movie in this, and then you took it off, apparently. No, I'm just kidding. But it's...
I don't have any really strong feelings either way. I think that it's fine. I know that Tim really loves this movie, so like me seeing it the first time, he was like, "This is amazing. Why haven't you seen it?" So that probably like lowered how I perceived it because he said it was going to be so good.
Of Tim.
I know, right? That's exactly what he sounds like. So I think it's fine.
Okay. I'm done with this. Let's move on. I am ashamed. I don't even know who it is now. It's number 1s, right? We're at Nazario?
Yeah, it's Nazario.
Please close us out. Actually, yes, go ahead.
When I made this list, the first time, my number 1 was Nightmare Before Christmas. And then I remembered that is a Disney movie. May not be Disney animation, but it's still a Disney movie. So I had to rethink my approach because that is actually my favorite animated movie of all time on Disney. And I had to put my number 2 as number 1, which is The Iron Giant. It's a little lovely story.
So just behind the scenes, you and Maggie share the same number 1.
My number 1.
So you two can talk about it. And the rest of them didn't have it on their list, so obviously so. Go ahead,
Okay.
Nazario, take it away.
Ladies first. Let her speak first.
Okay, I'm gonna have a lot less to say probably than you because you have really detailed analysis and I do not. So again, like I said, this is definitely a nostalgia thing. I think that Brad Bird is a really great animated director. I really love pretty much all of his animated movies except Incredibles 2. This is, I know Paul hates this lesson, but you can really be whoever you want to be. And I think that this movie does a really great job of portraying that. And just the relationship between, this giant robot who can like do anything and just this boy who's really like trying to figure out with his life really. And I just think that it's a great touching story and I always shed a little tear at the end. So it's really great.
Yeah, it's familiar, but it's original and different enough to kind of catch you a little off guard. A lot of people say this is just a different version of E.T., which probably you can see it as that because it's a little boy who finds an alien friend and how they develop and communicate without even being able to talk to each other. And the movie is so originally made in a period in the late 90s where the Disney Renaissance was starting to go down, and the next couple of years we're going to start getting, with few exceptions, a little rough on the classic animation style. It's a beautifully animated film in the classic 2D style, and Vin Diesel, before being Vin Diesel for doing the voice of the robot, is actually kind of endearing. And the twist with the robot actually being like a weapon of destruction that kind of overcomes its own impulse and its own programming because of the friendship that he develops with the little Hogarth, my friend. It's actually very touching, and it's set in the 50s when the fears of Russia and invasion were at their high in this small American town. And yes, it's just like the government always running around trying to catch the aliens because they're full of fear, when actually you just have to love and understand to have this great relationship. And the way it ends is also pretty great. It's one of the few times that I don't mind that they kind of undo the sadness of the ending by the way they reveal later, because I really love the Giant. So yes, this is my favorite movie non-Disney made animated of all time. Brad Bird at the top of his game. I agree that Incredibles 2 is the one. He kind of went like, whatever, let's just do this one. But everything else he has made has been great. And to this be the best one, it's really a great film.
Yes, I just saw this movie recently, entering this start of the year. We did it for a watch along over at Take 3. It was the first time I watched it. I watched it with Robert, Malcolm, I think, a few other people. And I really did enjoy it. I think this movie is. I've heard it hyped up a lot. I've heard a lot of people talk about how great it was. I didn't understand it until I watched it. And I know Maggie picked the top 2 for nostalgia picks, but I honestly believe it still holds up. I still think it's a fantastic movie. I'm with you with Brad Bird. Incredibles 2 is a weakness in there, and I will stand by that. Koho, if he was hosting, he would kick us all off stream. But I think he does an amazing job with this movie, and the heart of this movie is awesome. And even the animation style for this was great back then. So I love the choice at number 1. Good job, guys. Paul, Jake. Maybe not slapstick enough for Jake. So I don't know. So go ahead.
So I actually love this movie. This was probably would be like in the 11 to 15 range for me. It's really close. It's one of my favorite American animated movies of all time. I find it really emotional. I think the message, again, Maggie was kind of jabbing me about the messaging, but I think it's done more subtly, and I think there's more nuance to it. I think a lot of the sort of message is more sort of about anti-violence and just like sort of the terrors that war can wreak on people and populations. And I love the idea that you can change someone just by being good around them. And I think that's such a powerful idea. And I love that Hogarth's relationship to the giant is phenomenal. It's a great movie. It's my probably my favorite Brad Bird movie, actually. It's pretty great. Nothing bad to say about Iron Giant. Just miss it by that much.
Fair. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. So it's been a while. It's been a long time since I've seen Iron Giant. It's really good. I like a lot of Harry Connick Jr. is in it. It's a good movie. It's been a while since I've seen it. I can't really say too much, but best Brad Bird movie. Get the fuck out of here with that blasphemy. It's fine. I'd have much more of an opinion if I had seen it recently, but yeah.
Ratatouille is number 2.
Ratatouille is the best one.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, Paul.
So my number 1, it is not Studio Ghibli. Fun fact, even though it's Studio Ghibli adjacent, is still Hayao Miyazaki. The movie is Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I was really, it's between this and the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour Nickelodeon crossover event, but I decided to go with this. This is my favorite animated movie. This is my favorite movie protagonist in cinema history. This is such a wonderfully human story, and I think Nausicaa is everything that I want in a movie character. Her resolution is like unbreakable, and she's faced with all these really harsh and difficult circumstances, but she maintains this positive outlook, and I think that's the outlook is what sort of brings the conflict to an end at the end of the movie. It's the animation is absolutely gorgeous. The fact that this was made in like the mid '80s is insane. It's one of my favorite movie scores of all time. The English dub is actually really great. Shia LaBeouf gives a really great performance in this. Alison Lohman is great as Nausicaa, but it's just so delightful. And the character of Nausicaa is so important to me as a movie watcher. This is one of the defining films for me of all time. And I love the message. I love, it's got great action too. And everything sort of wrapped into one. It's got a really awesome message about sort of, again, being resolute in the face of fear and in the face of anger and conflict and not giving way to people's bad tendencies. It's goddamn delightful. It's great from start to finish. It's one of my favorite movies, period, of all time. It's amazing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he mentioned as one of your directors on the best directors working today? Did you include this?
So I think this was my pick, I believe. But this is this is one of my favorite directors of all time, and it's just it's amazing. This is my favorite of his. It's not the one people consider his sort of magnum opus, but it's sort of his defining film for me. I think it's everything that he's interested in, just done so perfectly.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. So, but I will have to check it out some point soon. But I mean, you had it on another list, so I figured it would be up there somewhere close to the top, and it was your number one, so that's fair. Nazario, you were on that same episode. Have you seen this movie?
Yes, I have. I actually remember not including Hayao Miyazaki in that episode because I thought he was retired. I didn't know he came out of retirement. But Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind is one of those other movies that I got shown up when I was a kid. I think this one I got shown when I was 8. But unlike Grave of Fireflies, it did not traumatize me because this is actually a pretty good magical film. It's very, very Japanese. It has that spirit about everything is like connecting magic and nature. And even though I haven't rewatched this film in probably 20 years, I really have great fond memories of it when I was growing up. And I'm pretty sure that if I could find it, because it's not that easy of a find, at least not here, and I would rewatch it, it probably would move a lot up. Right now, it's just hanging on with my memories of a 15-year-old. I think it was the last time I watched this film.
Fair. Maggie?
Have not seen it.
Fair.
Sorry.
And,
I mean, it's hard to find. I have it on Blu-ray, which is one of the kind of only way that I can watch it. It's not on VOD or anything, and that's frustrating. But if you can find it at your library, I would highly suggest giving it a shot.
And Jake?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I do want to, just based on it being high on Paul's favorites list, definitely want to give it a shot when I can find the film.
That's fair. All right. That was your list. Sucks with this. Everybody's top 10.
Jake's number 1.
Oh, you're right. My bad. I basically wanted to cut him out because of his last pick. All right, Jake, I'll let you have the floor.
You give me this one?
Go ahead because you share one with another person, so I don't want to cut them off.
Well, you know what they say, save best for last. So I'm going with a film that Paul actually recommended that I watched a few months ago, or some months ago now. It is his number 3, and it's one that I rewatched last night. I had to rewatch it. I know I had to, and that's Makoto Shinkai's Your Name. I'm waiting for it to reveal. Yeah, this is. I don't even know if I have that many words to really describe just how I feel when I watched it. It starts. I think in the simplest of stories, it's about these 2 teenagers who live in completely different areas of Japan, and they start swapping bodies. They start swapping, and they don't know how it's happening, and they kind of lost at first, but then they start kind of building a friendship between each other and helping each other in their lives. And then the second half, it takes a different turn that I'm not going to spoil. But this is absolutely beautiful. One of the best films of the 2010s. Probably my favorite animated. It's tough with Lego Movie. No, sorry, but yeah, it's more emotionally powerful than the Lego Movie. If that makes me feel better, but yeah, it deals with tradition and culture, and I think it does the theme, the idea of love transcends everything. It does it in a better pace than Interstellar. And I just felt so many emotions watching this movie, and they were all, it's just it's really hard. I don't really get emotional when watching a movie, but there are so many moments in the movie that I really gravitated towards and really felt, and it really left an impact on me after I'd seen it. And I know I wanted to rewatch it last night just so I can really feel my feelings on the film. So yeah, this is one of the best films of the 2010s, and I actually love the ending, and there's just so much going on. I love the music, and it's probably the most beautifully animated film ever, honestly. What Makoto Shinkai does with light and camera movements and just the character designs are just all 10 out of 10. It's perfection.
I mean, pretty much a lot of what he said. I think it's a stone cold masterpiece, and I think it's kind of undeniable. It's so many different genres blended into one, but it coalesces them in such a way that makes everything work so well. It's like it's weirdly like one of the most realistic portrayal of dreams ever, because these characters a lot of times they don't know what is reality, what is their dreams, and they can't sort of draw the distinct line between the two of those things. But I just think it's such an emotionally resonant and powerful movie. It understands so many things about relationships and sort of the meaning that we assign to the the relationships we have with other people, and how that sort of defines us and our culture, and it's how people can connect in so many different ways. And it takes the body swapping convention and makes it not a comedy. And I think that's such a bold and inspired choice. I think so many body swapping movies go straight for pure comedic. Especially it's a guy and a girl swapping bodies, but it doesn't make that the joke. It makes that about their connection. And it's like, yeah, I can't explain how much this movie moves me. I think on rewatches this might even be maybe even number 2 or even maybe number 1 on my list. It's the highest grossing anime movie of all time, and I think rightfully so. It's brilliant in pretty much every way. I think it's the most striking animation I've ever seen in a movie, and I've seen a lot of animated movies, but man, there's shots in this movie that I literally stand with my mouth agape at the fact that this achievement was made. I really am scared of like overhyping this for people, but I just can't state enough how incredible this movie is and how much it makes me emotional and moves me. And it's got one of the great endings I think of any movie I've seen in the last 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, I have not seen this one. Haven't been able to check it out yet. But it's on my list for sure. Nazario, Maggie, didn't have it on your list. Have you seen it? Not a fan?
I haven't seen it.
I literally watched this movie 4 days ago because Paul talked so much about it that I actually decided to like blindly trust him once and buy the Blu-ray for $35.
Just one.
It's rentable on Amazon for $4. Just saying, on Amazon digital.
You live in Australia, it's on Netflix.
I do not live in the United States, and Amazon doesn't let me rent with a non-US credit card. So I had to buy the freaking thing blindly, but I'm glad I did because the movie, it's everything I expected and more. Honestly, when I had no idea, I really went blindly. I had no idea what the story was going to be. I thought it was going to be more of a straight-up romantic movie, which is definitely not. And yeah, the body swapping thing that is the obvious start of the film is interesting enough that it kept me watching. But when the twist revealed what Jake mentioned, but it didn't spoil, and I won't either, then that movie got me. That is my jam. That is the kind of things I really enjoy. And yes, the way it developed is not anything as I expected it was going to be. And Paul is right. The ending is so subtle and so beautiful that it actually is not even really sad, and it dropped me a tear out of my eye. It's a beautiful film, and I don't know if it's good enough to be Happy Feet, but probably after I rewatch this film a few more times, I think it will definitely break this into my top 10. I just mean it's been 4 days. I haven't completely digested it yet.
Okay, well, that now is Your List Sucks. Everybody created their top 10. It was a rough ride. We got to the end.
Sorry, Cody.
I'm gonna bring on Kaleb Koho.
Oh, no.
He's gonna read the top 10. He just a shout out to Kaleb every week. He kind of puts the stream together for me. He makes sure all the lists go in, all the banners, make sure everybody's interacted in the thing. So I really appreciate that. That's why you actually see him on more lists at times than other people, because he actually does this. He doesn't get paid. He gives up his Wednesday night to help me. So I appreciate that. I'm going to also let him just do this from now on. He can read off the top 10. He also had producer's picks. So if the stuff was tied based on our number system, he got to put the movie in the placement. So
Paul's reaction is the correct reaction. Here we go. At number 10 is How to Train Your Dragon. If my thing wouldn't lag. There we go. All right, your number 9 is Anastasia. Number 8.
Damn.
Grave of the Fireflies. At number 7, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Oh.
At number 6, Anomalisa. At number 5, This hurts. This should be number 1. Y'all suck. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
You haven't seen like any of the movies above it, so stop.
Listen, this is better than anything ever made. This is the best movie ever to be made that's not named La La Land or Sing Street. Number 4 is Princess Mononoke.
Yes.
I'm kicking him off.
3 is the Lego Movie.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yikes.
Shut your ass.
2 is Your Name. And number
That's
1 is The
Yeah.
Iron Giant.
I mean,
There you go.
it's so weird, but okay.
All right.
what a weird list. What a weird list.
This is a weird list.
Yeah, it is a very weird list.
How I do it every week. I give out the top rated scores. Guess what? No offense to everybody. You're not getting higher than a C+ on this one today. I am giving Paul number 1 for his simple fact of Grave of Fireflies. That movie really did change my perspective on that animation style, and I think that is a brilliant choice. Good job, Paul. Some I may not agree with all of them, but some I haven't seen, so I can't really say it. Number 2 goes with a C, goes to Nazario Montenegro. Nazario had a fine list, put it together. Number 3 goes to Maggie. The only reason Maggie did not get higher because she had a stellar Balto pick, but she had Anastasia and Lego Batman, and that was a rough pill to swallow. And above How to Train Your Dragon. And at the bottom of the barrel, one that probably is next to Sandy Robinson and Malcolm Goldie-Lay at the bottom, it is Jake the Maestro Maringoni. Wow, your list truly does suck. The overall list today, I would honestly give the list after a few watches. I would probably say you're still at a C+. There's a lot of problems. I think Graves of the Fireflies is way too low. That's disrespectful to a whole nother level. So next week, guys, as movie villains, overall movie villains, animated or otherwise, so you can include your top 10 list of who you think the best movie villains are. The week after that, Nazario will be taking the desk. He is going to do best horror movies this time. No sequels. You can choose whatever you want and have him rip you apart. I hope there's a lot of hot takes. Then Oscar's got it wrong, director's edition. It is changing from what it previously was. You are allowed to pick a director from that year that directed something that wasn't nominated. So if you think something that should have actually been nominated and won, please give me your list. Then, do I have anything else? Koho. And then overrated films of 2000. So 2000 to 2009, it was still my favorite episode so far. Is overrated of 2010s. It was the longest, but it was my favorite one I've done. And I can't wait to see what everybody puts as their one. And Kane sent me the thumbnail tonight, and there's some hot takes already on the thumbnail. So I'm pretty excited to see what everybody's choice is. Please send me your list. Do not bitch to me if you don't get on the show, if you never send me a list. And if you just try to send me a hot takes list just to get on the show, you probably won't be on the show. So thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Nazario. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Caleb. And everybody in the chat, have a good night. Send me your list.